We're finally here. It's the Champions League knockout draw. Arsenal will find out who they're playing in the round of 16. The Champions League knockout football is back at the Emirates Stadium. Of course, the games will be taking place in around February, March time. And we're going to go through the teams we could face and very soon find out who it is we have got. Arsenal have lost their last 7 round of 16 games, Robbie. I'm sure you were probably at every one. So you remember
I was, yeah.
You remember
and
them
that's
well.
why I would like an easy draw. We've been debating it off here, you know, who we'd like to get. James here telling me because his cousin is a massive Inter Milan fan, he wouldn't.
Distant cousins,
right?
family.
He wouldn't mind getting Inter Milan. Now, as I said to Julian last week,
Bring it on.
right? Do you want a nice holiday, or do you want to go all the way to the Champions League final? I want someone that you know, listen, there's no easy teams, but I want one of the easier draws, a la a Copenhagen, maybe a Lazio, one of those sort of teams, you know what I mean? Not Inter Milan, who are top of Serie A.
Yeah.
Why would I want that right now? I mean, listen, if we get it, I still think Arsenal have the ability to win, but let's try and get another easy one. That's what I say.
Robbie, it's personal for me, man.
Well,
Arsenal versus Inter Milan.
Go
Give
and
it
play
to
him.
me. Champions
But
League.
you know what the thing is? You sound like
It's
Turkish.
the great Champions League.
Do you remember-
Go and play your
Turkish was
cousin
like,
on
remember Turkish? Remember when
Go
they-
and play his cousin on FIFA.
Yeah, do you remember Turkish? He was like, I want to play Bayern Munich. I want to, you know, revenge. Bro,
Ridiculous.
forget that, man. Forget
Ridiculous.
that. Let's
Yes, AU Guna. We're top of the Premier League, Robbie.
yeah, we know that.
Yeah.
This is
Fancy us.
So why at this stage the champion?
Yeah.
What was it you start off by saying? We've lost our last seven of the last 16 rounds.
Yeah.
Let's get an easy draw. Try and get through this, and then see how far it can take us. You know what I mean? Let's. You know what I mean? Why? You know, when the FA
Loser
Cup.
mentality, you two. I don't like
All right.
this.
So why were you moaning the other day when the FA Cup draw when we
I
got
wasn't
Liverpool?
moaning. I was all right with it.
So you were happy when we got Man City away last season?
No, that I'm only.
Oh, great trip. That's a fantastic trip, you know what I mean?
I've got a third cousin in Manchester.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I'm sorry.
It's personal.
Easy.
Yeah,
That's what I want, easy.
Easy group. And
Copenhagen.
Been impressed
All
with
I'm
Arsenal.
saying is, yes, I want one of the easier teams for an easier ride. But if we get into Milan, I'll enjoy it. That's all I'm saying. I don't want PSG. That
No,
would
I
be
don't want
annoying.
PSG.
That'd be very
That's
annoying.
a tough game.
We might as well go through all the teams in just a sec. But I mean,
That's probably in PSG right now. The way they've been playing is probably an easier game than Inter.
do you think?
Yeah,
Kylian
because
Mbappe?
Yeah,
Yeah,
even
but
though they're top of their league, and obviously I don't want to play PSG either because of Kylian Mbappe, because he's the best player in the world as far as I'm concerned, and can win a game on his own. So those teams I want to avoid. I want to avoid at all costs.
All right,
You know
let's
what I mean?
give you-
Even though people say look what Newcastle did to PSG and that, and they're not but they still got Kylian Mbappe, and he's still the best player in the world, and it'll still be tough.
Let's go through the teams we could get. Copenhagen, PSV. No, we couldn't get PSV, but they are a second seeded side. Napoli, Inter Milan, Lazio, PSG, Leipzig, and Porto. Those are the sides we could play. The other teams in the draw, of course, we couldn't draw them because we all finished first in our group. Bayern Munich, Arsenal are there, Real Madrid, Real Sociedad, Atletico Madrid, Dortmund, Man City, and Barcelona.
Can I piggyback off the back of what you just mentioned there and read you the probabilities of the teams that we could face from highest to lowest? This is obviously worked out between certain teams can't play the same team in their league. So this is what they've worked out by saying RB Leipzig, we have a 20% chance of getting them. That's the highest. PSG, we don't want them, but they're the second highest with 13.59%. Copenhagen, please Copenhagen, 13.59%, same
Please,
as PSG.
Copenhagen. Do you see what they do against Man United? I don't think they've lost at home in years or something.
Yeah, but
No, see what Bournemouth did to Man United, and we still beat them, didn't we?
exactly that. And then it goes into Milan, who James wants 13.21%, same as Napoli and Porto and Lazio, so 13.21%.
Yeah, and a lot of that's based off of the fact that they can't play certain teams, isn't it? Because if you're, say if you're RB Leipzig, you can't play Bayern, you can't play, you know, any German team that's left in it. So, yeah.
So number one,
and obviously
we
can't get. Well, our probabilities have all gone up because Man United got knocked out, and so did Newcastle. You know, so
It's like Claudio Ranieri hosting the draw. Have you seen this guy? Does it not look like Claudio Ranieri?
Yeah, is it not?
He always does
no,
a
it's
younger.
not. It's not.
Looks
but-
just like him.
He always does a draws, this guy.
So they're gonna do the draws very soon. I imagine they'll draw from pot 1 first, then move on to pot 2. Look, let's just talk about the fact that here we are in the round of 16. What have Arsenal been getting wrong before at this stage, and what can Arsenal? What are Arsenal better equipped now to deal with whatever will come in February?
We're definitely better equipped now.
Yeah.
When we've had some of the previous Champions League campaigns, we've not had as good a side as what we've got now. We've got a much better team now. So I think we're definitely better equipped now to go further. But, you know, when you get to this stage as well, you know, I mean, there's some very good sides, you know what I mean? And, you know, we all know in cup competitions, sometimes it is a bit of the luck of the draw, you know? So
It's quite an interesting question, that, James, to be fair.
Yeah.
Because if you look at it, like, we don't have many Champions League winners in this Arsenal side. Of course, we have people that have won the Champions League, but they're fairly new to the squad. However, I think we are better equipped in the sense of what Arsenal have been through from what happened last season. Of course, it wasn't the Champions League, but we've had Europa League and we've had not winning the Premier League in the last stage. I think Arteta is aware of that and has built this team to be more pragmatic, save yourself. Understand, you know, there's difficult games coming, and yeah, I think we are more equipped to it. So, and Arsenal started the season very well. And returning back to the Champions League after 7 years, I know the group stage was Europa League-ish, is what we all laughed about, but we've been very, very good in the group stage. It's been phenomenal from the boys.
and I think our home form has been really good.
And that as well.
I mean, one thing we've got to do better at is you know, our form on the road. But our form on the road, you know, in this competition, we lost at Lens, beat Sevilla. All right, we drew
a dead rubber with PSV.
We drew a dead rubber, so that's going to be the one thing. Can we do better on the road? But certainly our form at home's been better. But I really do think it boils down to the fact that Arsenal at this moment in time have a much better team than what we had when we were going into some of those Champions League campaigns. If you go back and you look at some of the sides we had,
some were ridiculous.
some poor players in those teams, you know what I mean? And basically we come up against teams that were just, you know, when we played Bayern Munich, just miles better than us. That was the truth of the matter.
Well, also I'd add to that I always felt we were so tactically naive in the Champions League. We kind of just thought, well, Bayern Munich, well, we'll play our football and we'll see. And, you know, Barcelona, even if we did play our football and beat them 2-1, you know, I never felt we really fully would appreciate what the away leg would need.
Exactly.
You know, digging into games, getting deep.
Great point, right? I was watching that Newcastle game the other day and I was like, literally, that game against AC Milan, that was how Arsenal used to play in the Champions League under Arsene Wenger. Arsene Wenger, as we know, wasn't very adaptable. He had his way of playing, which was brilliant. But sometimes when you're coming up against real tough teams in Europe, you've got to adapt your style a bit. So, and that Newcastle game reminded me, they went 1-0 up.
Yeah.
And that's it. You're 1-0 up. You don't need to go gun-ho no more, right? You don't need to go gun-ho no more because, you know, the other games going your way. You know, PSG need to win their other game. And at that stage, they were losing. And then it was even 1-1. That's still enough for Newcastle, but they were still going gun-ho for that second goal. And then these sort of teams in Europe, like these, especially these Italian sides, they'll just wait. They're patient. They'll catch you on the break, bang, and then before you know it, they were 2-1 down, and then those teams will just shut down the game, and that's it. And that used to happen to Arsenal time and time again in Europe. I do feel that Mikel Arteta does recognise that and is a little bit more adaptable. You've seen how he's really sort of strengthened the way we defend. You know, we've been very good in the Premier League. A lot of people have said, well, our style isn't as great as it is last year, but that's because we're defending a lot better. And if we do that in Europe, that will help us and set us in good stead. Go away from home, don't lose the game. Try and, you know, or if you do lose, keep it narrow.
Yeah, keep it tight, yeah.
And then come back home and do your business there. And that's how a lot of teams do it, and that's how a lot of teams progress.
Yeah. Tactically more advanced, definitely Arsenal, but I also think personnel as well for Arsenal. I think you can talk about good players. I just think we've you know, rose to the occasion. A lot of these players, Declan Rice, in every game, but you know, he's come into a Champions League competition like it's like he's playing in the park with his mates. It's so comfortable for him. Bukayo Saka.
He's an unreal footballer.
Unbelievable. Bukayo Saka as well, and Gabriel Jesus. Gabriel Jesus' numbers in the Champions League are phenomenal. People talk about he doesn't score enough goals and all that, but he's been so good in the Champions League. I think these players are like, yeah, let me show you how good of a player I am, especially in this competition. So I think it's a lot different to what we used to have back in the day.
I'm also wondering if the fact that we've been out of it for quite a while is that we're going to have that surprise factor to a lot of teams. A lot of teams, a lot of teams have not faced Arsenal for, in Europe now for a very long time. So all of a sudden you're going to be coming up against sort of a new proposition in the Arsenal, in the type of players we've got, might be a bit of a surprise for them when they come up against us.
I agree with that. I think it's more the fact that, if a team's trying to research Arsenal in the Champions League, they'll look at Premier League games and think they're being quite, pragmatic, but then they'll watch the Champions League games and we're very free-flowing. I know that's slowly changing of our recent performances, but how do you prepare for an Arsenal if you're in the Champions League? I think it's a good question. I think we are quite unpredictable.
By the way, I was just seeing this comment here by Ken Tang, who said he's from Singapore, big up from Singapore. He said maybe Arsenal will get Real Madrid or Barcelona. We can't get those, and he put laugh out loud, we can't get those teams because we are seeded in Pot A, as we're seeing them starting to shake up the pots now. We're seeded in Pot A, so we can't get any of those teams like Real Madrid, because any team that won their group, we can't get.
I'm just wondering, so there's certain pots with our names on them. So I'm interested in how they're doing the draw. So, I see what they're doing. That's clever.
Yeah.
So they've drawn Porto out first.
Okay, so we could get them.
So
I want them.
Well, are they just going to decide who they want to give them to?
Yeah, so
we.
Oh no,
I get it.
They're taking the balls out of the pots where
they could play them.
Yeah. So
this is it. This could be us.
We could get Porto.
Could be
Porto
us.
wouldn't be the end of the world.
Well, are they third or fourth in their league?
They're a good side.
They are a good side. They've got two Pepes in there.
Got a lot of pedigree in the Champions League. Who've they got?
Go on, be Arsenal. Go on. Yeah!
Arsenal versus Porto.
I'll take that. I'll take it. It's nice.
First out of the hat, Eddie there trying to keep his cool. First out of the hat, Porto. No, do you know, it's like, I always love it, right? Because you see everybody, they're just like stiff and trying to, I may as well go then. In the street, then. First out, Arsenal.
Nice.
Arsenal will play Porto.
Woo! I'll take. That's a nice trip. Book the tickets.
Napoli have just been pulled out.
Napoli, that was a good team.
By the way,
could have got Napoli, and that would have been a tough game.
They're third in their group, Porto.
Yeah.
A win would put them top. They face Sporting next. Massive game for them.
Big game. Sporting's a good side as well. That's in their league, isn't it?
So Pepe back at the Emirates, 40-year-old.
Physical.
I say back at the Emirates. At the
Very
Emirates,
experienced guy.
Been there.
The good thing about the draw is, remember, we will play the second leg at the
home.
Emirates, which is always great.
To give people
the draw going on, Napoli are going to play Barcelona.
That's a good game. That's a good game.
Difficult game.
That is a difficult game for Barcelona, I feel, as well. You know what I mean?
That's a good game.
There's Deco there. Remember Deco?
Yeah.
Right. To draw, that's a tough. That is a tough. And I'm glad we avoided Napoli.
Just
John Terry, by the way, drawing out the ball there.
I will run
so
through.
It might be rigged.
PSG.
And again, I'm glad that we avoided PSG.
Yeah, me too.
You're right, because if Arsenal got them, I'd love to see Edu's face. You know when you kick yourself inside, like, no, please.
PSG.
Who they got? Who are they going to get?
They can't get Borussia Dortmund, of course, because they've already played Dortmund.
City,
they had Dortmund in their group.
City
so
PSG
they can't get them.
Will be a good game. City PSG. Go on.
All this probability stuff in it, that went well, didn't it?
That went out the window. Yeah. Porto the least probable as well.
Right.
Were they?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They were alongside
who've they got?
The other four.
This is PSG going to play
Real Sociedad.
They'll be happy with that PSG, won't they?
Finish second, with all due respect to Real Sociedad, to finish second in your group and you draw Real Sociedad as the first team, they'll be happy.
You would have
PSG.
thought that'd be like almost like the other way round, didn't it?
Yeah, they'll be very happy with that PSG.
They'll be buzzing about that because that gives them a chance to progress.
By the way, just some of our recent results. Our last game against Porto in 2010 ended in a 5-0 win. We did lose the away leg 2-1 though. And this is Inter Milan have been drawn
Inter
out.
Milan, your cousins.
Yeah. In the
James's cousins, who they're going to get?
we've actually
They might
lost.
get Real Madrid.
Yeah, they might actually.
Ooh, that'd be a
They could
be a
get
great
Real
tie.
Madrid, they could get Bayern Munich, they could get
great
Dortmund
tie.
or City, they could get Man City. They pop over and see them on the way.
They need to
Well,
knock out a
repeat
big
the
team.
final.
They need to knock out a big team.
And that would be a repeat of the final last year. That's the other thing, they got to the final last year.
done
You
well.
want to get them now,
Yeah,
right?
that's all right. I'll wait.
No way.
Who've they got?
Yeah,
John
Inter
Terry
versus
drawing
AC
it out.
Before them was a great game.
Atletico Madrid.
Atletico, that is that's another
That's a great
very tough tie. That
So
I'll tell you
Diego
what.
Simeone up against his old club.
Don't you think so far, when you look on it, we've done all right so far?
Yeah, we've done.
We've done all right
the
so
group's
far.
been
When you're
good.
seeing,
The next stage has
when
been
you're
good.
seeing some of those clashes, man, we've done all right so far,
Nice.
man.
I like Portugal as well, man.
By the way,
Get
our
the
last
sun
3
cream
trips
out.
to Porto, we haven't won any of them.
They're a good
0-0, 2-0 defeat, 2-1 defeat.
All right, James. So that I don't need
Bad
right now.
PSV.
Don't need that.
PSV have been
Eindhoven.
drawn out.
Good team, especially at home.
But they also haven't scored at the Emirates.
Man City could
that's
get
good, that's
PSV.
2-0, 4-0, 5-0.
They can't get Real Madrid.
No, don't get Man City. Get a Borussia. That'd be a good game.
I want City to get someone tough.
Tough. Yeah, tough. Come on, don't
You
be.
could there
I
get
bet you they do get City though.
Nah, Dortmund, man. Dortmund.
They
Come
could
on.
get Bayern Munich or Dortmund.
PSV Eindhoven have
PSV have drawn.
Borussia Dortmund.
Borussia Dortmund.
It's a good game.
That's a tough game for them. Dortmund did very well. They won
game.
top their group, of course, ahead of PSG, should I say. So PSV versus Dortmund. Dortmund will be happy with that, innit? Because PSV would have been one of them teams that a lot of them big boys would have wanted.
Yeah.
So
To be fair, the PSV at home are good. They're still unbeaten at home. mate.
look what we did to them when they came to our place.
Yeah, I know.
Lazio.
Oh, don't give these up to City, man.
Right, Lazio.
Don't
A
give
bit
these-
City.
Don't give these
Oh,
up to City.
a bit
Oh, they
City
can't-
get them.
Well, they can't get them.
They can get Bayern.
they must be in
no,
their
they can't
group.
get them.
They
They
was in
can't
their
get
group.
them. They was in their group. Yeah. So they can only get Bayern, right?
Yeah.
No, they,
No, they can,
Lazio and
that is Bayern.
Lazio
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
City
they can
won.
only get
They
Bayern.
can only get
Munich.
Bayern.
Oh,
They can only get Bayern Munich because of the teams that are left. So it's Lazio versus Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich will be
they'll-
very
they'll
happy
walk-
with that
they'll
draw.
walk through them.
Guendouzi, of course, playing for Lazio these
Oh,
days.
yeah, of course.
And we've got
FC.
Copenhagen.
These are going to
FC
get
Copenhagen.
Man City are going to get these, man.
City are going to get these. Like, you know it, man.
100%.
You already know City are going to
getting
get
these. Oh, they can
They
only
can
get
only
them.
get Man
Oh,
City.
for
So
goodness
Man
sake.
City have got FC Copenhagen,
ridiculous.
and they will be gassed about that. That's a nice, easy draw
is
for
a
Manchester City. It's Manchester City versus FC Copenhagen.
I will read out when these games will take place after the draw is done as well, just so everyone has clarity. So it's RB Leipzig. Who can they get?
RB Leipzig
Who's left?
I was going to say, surely.
against Real
Real
Madrid.
Wow.
RB Leipzig against Real Madrid.
Okay.
I think we've done all right at this draw.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have liked Copenhagen or Leipzig, but Porto.
Good. Porto's all right. Round of
Porto's
16.
a winnable. Porto do have a lot of pedigree.
They do.
They've won the
They're a good
Champions League,
side.
remember. Let's not, we've got to have a lot of respect
Let's
for them.
also just remember what Sporting did last year.
Yep.
You know, and but there's a super here from Ricky.
Sporting knocked us out of the
Yeah, they
UEFA.
did.
So let's not forget that as well.
Ricky says that Sporting loss last year can now be a blessing in disguise, actually, not to take a Portuguese team for granted. AFC Max says, hey Cecil, the kid you interviewed, was he James's son or apprentice? He was very good.
Everyone's talking about him, and we will look to bring him on. He has been on the channel quite a few times. Very good.
Yeah,
very
go watch it,
knowledgeable.
go watch it, okay.
Yeah, Robbie's got a little
Okay.
academy building of young talent coming through.
Let me just remind everybody of the draw, though, right? This is how it stands. Arsenal have drawn Porto. So it's Porto versus Arsenal, Napoli versus Barcelona, PSG versus Real Sociedad, Inter Milan, James's cousins, versus Atletico Madrid. They got a tough tie,
That is-
James.
that- yeah, it's a good tie.
PSV Eindhoven versus Borussia Dortmund.
great game.
Lazio versus Bayern Munich. FC Copenhagen versus Manchester City, and RB Leipzig versus Real Madrid. So winning your group definitely is the right way to go this season, isn't it? I mean,
Definitely.
I think the only team that will be looking at it and saying, boy, why did we even bother win the group is Real Sociedad, because they've drawn PSG. But listen, PSG haven't really been on their normal thing, but that's a I don't know where you guys are at, but that's a good draw.
Look,
That's a good draw for us.
It's, the obvious, respect every team. This is the Champions League, round of 16. Clearly, everyone can be dangerous.
Of course.
But, yes, obviously, of all the teams that are in there, Porto are ones that we should fancy ourselves against. Even the Sporting game, I know last year they knocked us out, but, we made changes in those games. Not full, but we didn't go full strength. We did make some changes in those games. And even then, I felt we had the better chance. Even then, I felt we really should have gone through in that game.
But it was down in that game, didn't he, as well?
Saliba got injured, but it was a reminder to us all that we do need to obviously respect who we're coming up against. But I've just got our recent history against Porto. 2006-07 season, we beat them 2-0 at the Emirates before drawing 0-0 in Porto. We then beat them 2 years later 4-0 at the Emirates, again in the groups before losing 2-0 away. And then in a knockout round of 16 game in 2009-10, we lost 2-1. I think this might be the last time we actually won a round of 16 knockout game. A 2-1 defeat. I remember Fabianski having a nightmare in that game, but we beat them 5-0, Nasri scoring a great goal amongst many in what was an Arsenal great performance. So 3 wins, 1 draw and 2 defeats in our games against them in the Champions League. But yeah, we'll ultimately be happy
We'll take
with
that, yeah. And
Yeah.
Lee Judge is already in the group chat, our Champions League group chat, saying, I'll take that, book the tickets. Just give people clarity as well. When will the ties take place? The round of 16 will be played over 4 weeks in the spring. The first legs will be February the 13th and 14th or February 20th and 21st in 2024, while the return fixtures will be either March 5th and 6th or March 12th and 13th. And obviously, as the seeded team, like you mentioned before, we host the second leg at the Emirates. So,
On Porto, I mean, first of all, really nice city. I was over in Porto in September. I was over there.
What?
Yeah. I was speaking at Sports Pro, this conference. So I was speaking on that conference, and I remember speaking to quite a few Porto fans because they were obviously very interested in, a little bit of interest in Arsenal.
Yeah.
Because, of course, former Porto player in the team.
No, doesn't say
Vieira.
Vieira, yeah, Fabio
he used to
Vieira.
play
I was
for
actually just about to say,
play for
Oh, yeah,
Porto.
that totally escaped my mind.
Fabio
I was going to say,
Vieira.
I was like, I don't know
And,
if I'm 100% sure.
Talking to a couple of Porto fans, they were it was at that time, so it was still very early in the season, but they were talking about how, they kind of, their team is a bit weaker than it was the previous year because they've lost a few stars. I think Vitinha, who's now at PSG, he was like one of their big stars last year, and they've lost a couple other players. I was asking them about, I think at the time, about Mehdi Taremi.
Yeah, I like him.
Who we were heavily linked to, and they were kind of like, yeah, he's all right, but not.
Was it last summer?
They were sort of saying to me, when I was saying would he have done well at Arsenal, they were saying he's all right, he done okay. And for anybody who don't know, Taremi's like their striker, Iranian international, had a great season last year, scored a lot of goals. But they were saying to me he'd be a bit lightweight in the Premier League because apparently,
Really? He's like 6'2".
they were saying that you only got to touch him like that and he goes over.
Right.
It's one of them who's always diving in that, you know what I mean? But I remember at the time, the couple of people that I spoke to, they weren't too infused about Porto this season. But that was in September, and since then I've not really been following how they've been getting on. But listen, traditionally they're a team that have got Champions League pedigree. They've always got a few Brazilians in there that
Pepe's
of
there,
a lot of quality. Like you said, Pepe. They've got the experienced Pepe. But when you think about it, the team that Arsenal have got and that, you've got to say that we got to be confident going into a 2-legged game against Porto, especially with the second game at home. And I don't think they pulled up trees in their group either, did they?
Let's have a little look at how they did in their group, because I was just having a look at their players. I mean, they've got some talents that I certainly know from Football Manager.
Porto always have top talented players because they've been over the last sort of ten, 15 years probably the most successful club in Portugal. You know what I mean? They've sort of overtaken Benfica. So it will be, they're going to be a good side. For sure, they'll be a good side.
They lost twice to Barcelona, but supposedly gave them good games if you're looking just at the scoreline. Obviously, I didn't watch them. A 2-1 defeat in Barcelona. They also lost 1-0 at home to them. They did beat Shakhtar Donetsk to that second place. Didn't
they lose one time to Shakhtar though? Am I
they
right?
beat
Because it was touch and go. I think they won the final game, which just picked them over Shakhtar, wasn't it? It was very close between them and Shakhtar.
So they won 3-1 away at Shakhtar, and then more
impressive.
recently they actually beat them 5-3. So they must have lost a load of other games to make it a bit more interesting. They beat Antwerp. So where the hell did they drop points? They beat Antwerp twice. So it must have been those 2 Barcelona games. Must have been Shakhtar must have got someone against Barcelona to make it quite
That's
interesting.
right. Shakhtar did they? Didn't they? Did beat Barcelona in one of those games. So, but
Porto,
they progressed, but
So that's what it is. They just lost to Barcelona home and away. That's the only teams they lost.
It looks like it, yeah.
Wow.
yeah. No, listen, there'll be a team with pedigree.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're always in the Champions League. Always in the Champions League. And they've won the Champions League, something that we haven't done. So we've got to have full respect for them. And they've always got really talented players. So
I wonder how they beat this Arsenal side, though. I wonder if I'm quite annoyed that I haven't watched so much of them because, is it through experience that they might cause us problems? Is it just their style of play? Because when I'm looking at it on paper and what I've seen of Arsenal, I feel like I don't want to be too arrogant when talking about this, but it seems like on paper we should be able to beat this team quite comfortably. But again, is it the experience?
We finished top of our group. They didn't. You know what I mean? We but like James said, let's not forget Sporting Lisbon.
I remember that.
Over 2 legs, we couldn't turn over
beat
Sporting Lisbon, who finished below them last season. Right, so that's before we start getting ahead of ourselves about
that is a good point.
who Porto are.
That is a good point.
That's, I mean, they're better than Sporting Lisbon, right? So we're going to have to, it's a difficult game.
It's weird. Last season we just didn't. I don't know what it was watching us in the Europa League. We just wasn't. It doesn't feel this. I know it's not the same. It's a different year. There's some add additions when it comes to players, but again, obviously there is some mitigating circumstances with Saliba going down. But watching us against Sporting was awful.
The Champions League has been a great break from the Premier League this season because our attention fully goes onto it. It's the Champions League. You don't disrespect it. Whereas with the Europa League, there was always debate, even going to those Sporting games. Do we rotate? Do we mix it up? Should we? Kivior made his debut away at Sporting.
True.
You are not going to get a 22-year-old centre-back that we hadn't heard of, who we signed in January, making his debut away in the Champions League unless there's some injury crisis.
Right.
Now, this is where I think ultimately, as fans and maybe within the coaching team or whatever, or the club itself, there's always a feeling that we know that the Europa League is second tier to the Premier League and what our priorities were. This year we don't have that. Come that Porto game, I don't care who we're playing later that weekend.
You have to put
I'm
the strongest team.
focused on Porto.
And it'll be, and you've seen that in the Champions League, and I think that's one of the reasons why we've been so good in our group stages. Is that we play our strongest team in the Champions League.
Yeah.
I mean, if that had been in the Europa League, we wouldn't have been. We would have been playing weakened sides, but we play our strongest team, in the Champions League. So you're right. When we played Sporting in that first leg, we juggled it a bit. We played stronger in the second game, right? And if you remember rightly, we didn't actually. We lost the game on penalties. Yeah. But it's just a warning to say that it's the Champions League.
Don't.
And the teams in the Champions League are all top sides. And Porto, as I said, they're what you call a made team, you know what I mean?
They've got heritage, and Arteta's not going to take it lightly. We saw, like you just mentioned there, the dead rubber game as well against PSV. He didn't put any of the academy boys on. It was quite a strong side he put up. I know that some of the fringe players got rotated in, but I expect us to go full strip. Like, great point what you said there.
You said those games will be in February.
Yes, so February and March. The first legs will be February 13th and 14th, or February 20th and 21st.
February the 13th or 14th.
Yep, or February 20th.
Which means the following Saturday, because that's interesting to all note as well.
Yeah, who will we go?
We play Burnley away, so that's not too bad. And then
what about
the second leg would be when?
Second leg will be March 5th and 6th, or the 12th and 13th.
All right, so if it was March 5th and 6th, the following game would be
Brentford at home.
Brentford at home. Nice. Or if it's what's the other one? What's the other possibility?
12th and 13th.
If it's the 12th or 13th, it would actually be a quarter-final of the FA Cup if we make it that far.
Okay.
So it could even be a free week. if we got that, hopefully we're not out. Sorry, you're right.
It's Chelsea at home.
Sorry, you're right. It's either a FA Cup game if we make it that far,
Yeah.
or Chelsea at home. So
it's not bad. Well, I expect Arteta to go full strength, but that's not bad.
it'd be full. Again, when you've got a game like Chelsea, if it's at home,
Yeah.
you can still go all out. You know what I mean? Because you've got your game at home. And let's be real as well, Porto's not
far, it's
mega
not
travelling,
travel,
you know what I
yeah,
mean?
it's-
It's like,
come on, man.
couple hours flight, you know? So I think it's
setting us up.
It's not
to a nice. It's a nice
it's not
route.
bad. It's not too bad a draw. I'm quite happy with that draw.
Yep.
You know, it's a Champions League. We're through to the next stages. You know, you're always going to get
Yeah.
some fairly difficult teams.
Remind me of your minimum level of where you think Arsenal should get in the Champions League. What's the
I
minimum?
said quarters, I think, in the previews.
Right.
I'd be surprised if I went as far as to say semis, considering I
Semis.
haven't been in it in ages. But you know, I don't think that's beyond the realms of
I know
possibility.
Turkish said semis. Robbie, what do you expect us? Well, now you know.
It's always, to me, it's always on the draw.
Yeah, when
It's always on the draw. You know, what I mean, I don't understand how people can turn around and say minimum semis.
yeah, Turkish.
Right?
is saying that.
What if, right, we would have got Napoli in this one, and then if we go through to this, get through to this, the next round we've got Real Madrid.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a cup competition. It's really hard to predict. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah, you're right. If you don't know who you're going to get,
we could win this. We could win this, right, and then get Copenhagen in the next round if, say, they won. And then I'd be saying, right, minimum quarters, because based off of. But it's really hard to predict. I mean, I'm expecting us now that I know that we've got Porto. I feel we should be able to get past Porto.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. I don't think it's going to be easy, but I feel we can get past Porto. But to just at the start of a competition say minimum semis, it's like in the FA Cup, innit? When people will say, "Oh, yeah, I expect us to win it this year."
Yeah.
And then last year we get Man City away.
We've got Liverpool this year.
Third round. This year we've got Liverpool third round. I mean, it's cup competitions. I think it's easier. It's more easier to make a prediction on the league because you know what's in front of you.
And everyone
you know
plays everyone.
Yeah, you know you're playing everybody twice, and you know what you've got, and you know what everyone else has got. But to just at the start of the tournament say minimum semis, based off of what? What is Turkish based that upon?
Because he said about City, Real Madrid, and Bayern probably the only teams that should cause us trouble.
All right. So what if? So when he says minimum semis, what if we get all three of those from this stage on? Because after this, isn't it?
Yeah, you can
get
start-
any
you can get
English team.
everyone, yeah.
So what if in the next round it was City, Bayern, Real Madrid? Do you then still say minimum semis or minimum? Yeah,
That means we win it, right?
It's hard to say. But what I'll say with what I know is in front of us now. We should. I think we should be able to beat Porto.
Yeah.
A couple comments coming in on super chats. Someone's putting a comment saying Porto's defence is very solid, only 9 goals conceded. And they're not wrong. I just had a little look. I mean, that's a pretty impressive
Where are they in the
defensive.
league?
They're third. Behind Benfica top, Sporting second. But if Sporting
what game?
and Porto, I think, face each other.
Tonight?
I think it might be tonight. Tonight at 8:15.
Sporting and who?
And then Porto, we better watch it.
Porto away at Sporting.
All of a sudden, I have a massive interest in the Portuguese league and shall be watching that game tonight.
I'll be joining you, Rob. I'll be watching that as well.
I tell you what, that's a big game.
is a
Rich
big
in the
game.
comments is just reminding us of Giroud's performance against Monaco. I remember that was the last
Yes.
straw that I was excited by and thought.
Yeah, that's true. Very, you know
brilliant,
what?
got who we
That's
want.
a fantastic point because I remember that game, right, against Monaco. And, we got that draw and we were all sort of thinking,
Yeah.
come on. That would have been like getting Copenhagen now.
Yeah.
And we was all sort of like, yeah, man, come on, we got this in the bag. And we were terrible.
Yeah.
But again, I point to our naivety in those days where it used to be very frustrating with Arsene Wenger because I'd be like, bro, you've got to change up your style. We can't just go and attack every team home and away. And that's basically what we was doing. And I do feel that Mikel Arteta will be a bit more adaptable and a bit more tactical in that way, and that he won't just approach it like, we're going home and away to smash teams,
Yeah.
So,
Agreed. We've got this super chat as well. My favourite of the day. Ollie says, it's good to see Terry doing some Champions League work. I thought he was just going to let everyone else do the draw and then change his shirt and take credit at the end. John Terry.
John Terry.
Oh, John Terry.
Very clever super chat. All right, so let's just remind you of the draw. I think you've got it there, Robbie, but Arsenal have got Porto away,
Napoli
away, and then the Emirates games in March.
That's right. So first, FC Porto's who Arsenal have drawn out of the hat, and of course it will be the home leg will be second, right? Which that is an advantage to Arsenal. Remember, we no longer have the away goal rule as well. So I think without the away goal rule, having that second leg at home is vitally important. So we can go to Porto, get a positive result, even a draw, and then bring them back to our place. You'd have to fancy Arsenal, but all the seeded teams play the second leg at home, and Arsenal will be playing Porto. It's Napoli versus Barcelona. That is a very tough game for both sides. I think Barcelona will be very peed off with that game, you know what I mean? Because they would have wanted someone easy. Napoli, of course, the champions of Italy with Osimhen and players like that. Paris Saint-Germain versus Real Sociedad. No big prize really for Real Sociedad for topping their group. They've got to play PSG, although Real Sociedad have been playing really well.
Yeah, good team.
In the competition so far. Inter Milan versus Atletico Madrid. That is another standout tie. Two really good sides. Two teams that have been to the final of the Champions League over the last 10 years. That is going to be a really tough game for both sides. PSV versus Borussia Dortmund, of course. So basically, if we would have finished runners-up, maybe we would have got Borussia Dortmund, which would have been a lot harder.
I'd love a trip.
Lazio versus Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich and Harry Kane and that, they'll be very happy with that. Not as happy as Pep Guardiola because they've drawn FC Copenhagen, of course, the team that knocked out Manchester United. They will be going to Manchester again, but this time to face Manchester City and RB Leipzig, the team that many said was the highest probability that we would get. Have not drawn Arsenal, they have drawn Real Madrid. So it's RB Leipzig versus Real Madrid. But of course, most importantly to us, we have got FC Porto, and that is who we're going to have to get past over two legs to then make the quarterfinal. And of course, when you make the quarterfinal, you then get to, you see the pathway, don't you? You're getting, they'll give the next draw will be the quarterfinal and semis. So you'll get to know if you get past the team then who you get in the semis. But
then
I don't even want
you can kind of work out.
But let me not even think about that right now.
Road to Wembley.
Right? Let's not even think about that right now.
Reminding people that the final is at Wembley.
Yeah, and we have a good record
final is at Wembley. Final is at Wembley. Let's not remind, you know, could it be an Arsenal Man City final at Wembley, all English?
I wouldn't want that. Actually,
well, listen, man, we've done all right.
Yeah, we beat
us that time. I don't care who we're playing if we're in the Champions League final. Just get me to the Champions League final.
Vibes,
yeah, I'll tell you what, right? If we got to Wembley, considering our record at Wembley,
yeah, it's good,
right? Which is very good.
Very good under Arteta. No, don't stop. Don't, relax.
But we got to get there first. And before we can even think about anything like that, we've got to get past Porto, and that won't be an easy game. But let's get past Porto and be into that next round. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for Porto.
Yeah. All happy then?
I am, man.
Great city.
Road to Wembley, bring on Porto. It's a good one. Just remind me quickly, Rob, remember in the Champions League in the group stages, every time we had an away game, were we back at the Emirates when we come back? That was something that was quite unique.
Every time we had an away game, next game
was at home.
Was always at home. It hasn't quite worked out like that this time.
Yeah.
But what I would say is, you know, that second leg, which will obviously be really taxing, followed up by a home game, which is the best we can hope for. Yeah. The best we can hope for.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Cecil. Thanks, Robbie. Thanks to all your comments. We do have a 91% yes vote for the Are You Happy with Porto in the Champions League knockouts.
Wow.
Look, I understand people are happy, but we also what?
Oh, I thought you were going to do that. I understand happy, but let's just cut that. I don't know if you're going to do that.
No, it's we're happy. Yeah.
Didn't get your cousins.
He wanted in.
I did. I wanted Inter Milan. That's okay. Maybe
get him in the final.
Yeah. There we go. All right, everyone. Big thanks for joining us on the stream. That has been the Champions League draw. Arsenal face Porto. We're in the first leg, and then they come to the Emirates Stadium. sometimes that can change, but I don't think it will. Porto have been drawn out first. So yeah, looking forward to that. Big thanks to Cecil, big thanks to Robbie, big thanks to all of you. The games take place in February and in March, but lots of Premier League action to take care of as well. Now, of course, we did just beat Brighton. There'll be loads of reaction to that coming out on the channel from Bar's Premier League show tomorrow, I believe.
Tomorrow, yep, we changed the time because of this draw.
Yep.
But it will be out tomorrow. And
Fantastic.
we'll react to the draw as well.
Further Arsenal later today and Tactical Insight all still coming because Arsenal were brilliant against Brighton and we're not just going to let that performance wash away. Lots to reflect on and praise from a really good win there. And of course, it's Anfield this weekend. Previews, super fan debates, everything will be coming this week. So keep an eye out for everything on AFTV by subscribing to the channel, hitting the bell button and keeping up to date with everything going on this channel. Catch you all in a bit.